Breast milk science. It's a thing. And it's our thing. We're ByHeart. We're an infant formula company on a mission to get a lot closer to the most super food on the planet, breast milk. Our patented protein blend has more of the important and most abundant proteins found in breast milk. We're the first and only U.S.-made formula to use organic, grass-fed whole milk, not skim. We make our formula in our own factories in Iowa, Oregon, and Pennsylvania, using a small batch manufacturing process that works to preserve the integrity of our ingredients. We ran the largest clinical trial by a new infant formula company in 25 years and clinically proved benefits like easier digestion, less gas, and softer poops versus a leading infant formula. We were the first infant formula company to earn the Clean Label Project Purity Award. And while we've put a lot into ByHeart, there's a long list of things you won't see on our ingredient list, like no corn syrup, no maltodextrin, no GMO ingredients, no soy, no palm oil. ByHeart, a better formula for formula. Learn more at byheart.com.
Hey, it's Storyworthy. Today on the show, the creator and host of Vanishing Postcards, Evan Stern, talks about how his uncle made him a vandal.
He recruited me as his henchman to do his dirty work for him. They bring over 2 chickens. One we're going to roast up for dinner. The other my uncle takes in a pot, boils it to the point where it's really messy. He throws in like some expired Miracle Whip. It builds like a witch's cauldron around this damn thing. Puts the chicken in a plastic bag, gives me some yellow dish gloves, and, jump in the car. We drive up to the house. My uncle hands me I'm holding the chicken. He's like, Evan, I want you to go up to that front porch. I want you to slam this chicken on the porch, and I want it to go everywhere.
Today on the show, creator and host of Vanishing Postcards Podcast, Evan Stern, talks about how his uncle made him a vandal. Stay close.
Hey, it's Evan Stern, and you're listening to Storyworthy.
Welcome to Storyworthy. My name is Christine Blackburn, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Whether you're a longtime fan of the show of over 12 years or you're a new listener, welcome to Storyworthy. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed the show last week with actress Naomi Grossman. Naomi's been on the show at least 3 or 4 times over the years, Evan, and every time she's super entertaining because she's such an actress. Like, I don't know how else to say it. She's just so actressy. And so her voice is very, exciting, and she tells the story like she's there. And last week she talked about sleeping with a fanboy. Evan, do you know what a fanboy is?
I do. I don't think I have any in my life, but I certainly know what one is.
Yeah, exactly. So Naomi hooked up with this fan, and it went on for a little while. Everything seemed good. And then guess what? Fanboy, he was a therapist, right, as well. He was living a double life. He was engaged to somebody else. He was having a baby with somebody else. And then he's leading Naomi on. And oh my gosh, go back, you guys. Listen to Naomi Grossman last week. It's a great episode, but not today. Stick with me now, because today I'm here with podcaster Evan Stern. And usually I don't just have on other podcasters. I have on comedians and actors and writers. But Evan, you happen to have this really interesting show that has gotten a lot of great accolades lately, and it's called Vanishing Postcards.
That's right. Thank you so much.
It's pretty interesting. How did you even think of this idea, Vanishing Postcards?
Well, it's not like I got a lightning bolt of inspiration for this. I'm really just one of those people who fell in love with podcasting and the audio medium over the last 10 years. I'd listen to programs like The Moth or This American Life, The Kitchen Sisters, while I'm cooking, while I'm cleaning. Storyworthy, of course, absolutely. And I just gradually started hearing these voices, maybe there's something that you could do here. And around this same time, the YouTube algorithm kept suggesting like these travel vlog videos. And I'd watch them, and I'd never really see the way that I enjoyed traveling represented, because it was much more, very rarely were the people saying, look at this place. It was much more, oh, look at me and how cute I am in this place. And
yeah, look at me eating this cotton candy along the, or look at me eating this big burger in London, whatever. Yeah, but it's never really about London. It's about the food they're eating in London.
Exactly. And so I'm totally immersed in the gig economy in New York. And, I'm an actor. So, basically you're immersed in the gig economy up there. But I've kind of built my life in such a way that I try to escape for a bit in January, February. And so in January, February of 2020, I decided to go back home to my home state of Texas just to see what I could do with, I was just trying to educate myself about the audio medium. And I went about collecting a few oral histories. But the project just snowballed, and it revealed itself to me as Vanishing Postcards. And I chose that title because each episode of the show provides a snapshot of a different place. And the common thread in the places that I visit is you don't know how much longer a lot of them are going to be around, or they're really representative of broader fading cultures, histories, traditions that you just don't hear so much about anymore.
And that's the idea of the vanishing postcards. In other words, this is I don't know if it's this generation is fading out. You would call it a generation, they always say the greatest generation, like my parents, that grew up in the Depression and then World War II. And, those people, of course, it's 100 years, they're dying off. Yeah, no kidding. But you specifically in Vanishing Postcards, you go to these tiny, tiny towns in Texas. That seems to be primarily where you're going. Is that right?
Well, the first season was Texas-based. The new season, which is out, which is releasing as we talk right now, started releasing episodes in June. For my current season, I drove Route 66 from Oklahoma to California. I drove over, I logged a total of 6,845 miles on the odometer. I spoke with over 100 people along the way. And, what's great about Route 66 is it's bound up in so many different layers of history. And so, you're finding reminders of the Dust Bowl and World War II, the so-called golden age of the, mid-century heyday of the road, the decommission. You also find reminders of segregation and the Green Book. And you're really covering all of that. So it's a bottomless well of material that I've just been having a great time with.
I think Route 66 is so funny because once you get to L.A., it goes right past my vet where I take my cat, sure, the North Figaro Animal Hospital, that's on Route 66, and then it hits right through Hollywood, and it goes right to the ocean. It's Santa Monica Boulevard, and you end up at the ocean. It really is kind of neat, and you see the markers on the road, historic Route 66, but nobody really goes on that road except for you, Evan Stern. Crossing the country. I'm going to read the description of Vanishing Postcards because it's a good description. It's a documentary travelogue that invites listeners on a road trip exploring the hidden dives, traditions, and frequently threatened histories discovered by exiting the interstates. Named one of the best podcasts of 2022 by Digital Trends. It's very, very exciting. But I have to tell you, I was listening to the Texas series, and I found so many of those places you were at incredibly depressing. I mean, not just depressing, but, you hear the people speaking and they say, we don't like change here in Dry Creek, Texas. Keep out. We don't want you here. And I'm like, then fucking stay away, man. I don't understand. People that don't want to come along with technology, people that don't see a future, people that poo-poo new ideas, I am so far from that.
Well, what I can say, though, is that people always have a way of surprising you. They really do. And it's not... for instance, in the episode on the Dry Creek Cafe that you just mentioned, that's a hippie bar. The people that go there, they are hippies, they're pulling out the guitars. They're about love, those folks. And I think that, I don't think that anything about what we're living through in our current moment should be normalized at all. I will be the first to say that. Nothing about what we have lived through over the past 6 years should be normalized. But at the same time, it is amazing when you are sitting across the table from someone how much agreement can be found, how much empathy can be found. And I think one of the rare areas of agreement in our country right now is culture. And I think it's really important to find areas of agreement. And I think that really is kind of what the show celebrates a lot, is culture.
That's very beautiful. God bless you, Evan. However, why can't they come to you? Like, why do we have to go to them? In other words, if they want to stay in the dark, if they want to stay ignorant about race, if they want to stay ignorant about sexuality, whatever they want to do, why do you have to go in and find common ground? You have to go in and find common ground because they're too stubborn to change their ways.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that I think there is great beauty to be seen, and I think here's something that I do believe is, I mean, I live in New York. I love New York. I don't know that we can expect people who live in, small places like this to appreciate what is good and beautiful about New York and Los Angeles and San Francisco and Austin and Paris, London, if we can't appreciate what is good and beautiful about them. And I think there is a lot of great beauty that can be found and should be celebrated. And that's that's what my view is right there.
You are so generous, and I am glad there's people like you out there keeping the faith and having faith in those people that don't want to change. Let me ask you, have you ever encountered somebody and you just cut off the conversation because they do discriminate and they are racist? Have you ever had to just walk away?
Once, but it's I find that's rare. I mean, that really and sincerely is rare. I've found much more in the way of kindness than that. I really have.
Did anybody ask you about your life?
I mean, sure. I mean, they're curious and interested to know about who is this guy who shows up at this honky tonk with a microphone from New York, dressed this way and that. But
and what's podcasting anyway?
Oh yeah,
right?
Absolutely. But
they wouldn't have no idea.
But for the most part, I found that people are very eager to share who they are and what they're doing. And they're always grateful that someone has taken an interest in what they're up to in these places.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, I think you're very generous, and it's very kind of you to want to hear their voices. I'm not so interested. I know I like a little quirky coffee shop. I like to travel, here in California, go up to Big Bear, go up to, I had a house in Big Bear. But even that, like 60 miles from LA, and they may as well have been in Oklahoma because people just, I don't know. For me, it's like I'm such a city person now. And when I say I'm a podcaster and people look at me like I'm from the moon, it's just like I don't want to even bother.
Here's what I'll say. I mean, I'm a total city person through and through, unquestionably. I grew up in the city of Austin. I live in New York. I am not a small town country person at all. I really am not. As I've said before, the show is apolitical. It's very important that it has that apolitical mission. I myself am not apolitical in the least. I'm not.
Yeah.
But something that I will say is being a blue voter who lives in New York, I have a lot of issues because Texas really is a non-voting purple state. It is nowhere near the monolith that it is often portrayed as. And I think that a big reason why Texas does look the way politically that it does, there are a myriad of factors that have gone into creating this beast. But I think a lot of why it has ended up the way that it is because it has been written off as unworthy of investment from the National Party. I've walked down the streets of New York wearing back in 2018, I had like a Beto t-shirt on, and, people say, oh, that's great. And then they'll go on an anti-Texas tirade. And the truth is that does play a role in creating this beast. And I think that we have to take some time and perspective to address that. We do. And so that's kind of like kind of my Achilles heel that I come from with a lot of this stuff right there.
I think that's beautiful. No, I think it's beautiful. And like you said, you grew up in Texas. I know Austin has tripled in size, I'm sure, since you were a kid, and things change. And so part of it for you might be, going back into your own childhood and just kind of like seeing those people that you knew growing up and maybe trying to find them again or something. Does that make sense?
Well, maybe a little bit. But I mean, it's... I think it's my own. The first season was my own Valentine to what I knew was good and beautiful about where I am from, and so that's kind of it's kind of rediscovering and taking another look at that. And I have many years of distance between myself and Texas, and I think when you do have a little bit of distance, sometimes you can view things from a new, different, objective perspective.
I love that line in a Tom Waits song. It says, "I never saw the East Coast till I moved to the West." You really do get a different perspective. Here's what I'd like to see you do. I'd like to see you, Evan Stern, in Appalachia. Let's get you in West Virginia. Let's get you in Kentucky. Let's see what's going on there. Let's hear about some, let's get down and dirty.
Well, hey, I'd love to do the Bourbon Trail sometime. Believe me, I really would.
Wait, what did they call it?
The Bourbon Trail.
Oh, the Bourbon Trail. I haven't heard that, but that makes sense. Yeah, Kentucky.
Oh, yeah.
And so when you go into these places in, wherever, whether you're doing the Route 66 thing or the tiny towns in Texas, what is your equipment? You got a bag? What do you got, a Zoom mic? I mean, what are you doing?
It's me and a shotgun microphone. I got my Zoom recorder. I got my headphones on. I am impossible to miss. I am impossible to miss walking around with that on me.
You know what's a fun little thing you can put on the end of your shotgun mic? You can get one of those little boxes, they're called like radio cubes, and put the little Vanishing Postcards, put that little, your logo on the microphone. People think that's so impressive. I mean, people like, wow, you got your own microphone cozy,
Well, but it is funny too, when you're walking around, you're impossible to miss. It's amazing the people who will come up to you because they're just curious and they'll start talking to you. I remember the second episode that I did this, ancient man came up to me. He was just so curious. I started talking to him. Turned out he was about to turn 100 years old. He was a Normandy veteran. And he told me that he comes to this dance hall every weekend and that one night a few months prior he danced with 32 different women. And that dancing keeps him young. And it's
That's
just,
the best.
You never know who you're going to meet.
Dancing is the best. I've had a lot of elderly friends who ballroom dance, and they go, especially in Las Vegas, they'll go to, gig to gig, casino to casino. They'll follow these, these bands. And, yeah, dancing is massive for the elderly community. I love that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, keeping moving and all that good stuff.
Hell yeah.
So today you bring forth the topic, my uncle taught me to be a vandal.
He did.
Which I can't wait. Is this your sister's? Wait,
yes,
this is your...
it's my mother's older brother.
Your mother's older brother. Oh, my gosh. I can't wait. How many kids in your family, Evan?
So I'm an only child,
Wow.
but my mom was the youngest of 6. She grew up in Corpus Christi, Texas. And, thankfully, I had the great privilege of growing up in Austin and not there.
Okay, but before we get to your story, I did want to remind everybody that I have a brand new podcast that I'm launching September 1st called My Life in 3 Songs. And it's where I talk to comedians about the 3 songs in their life that have impacted them. Not necessarily their favorite songs, but songs that really paint a picture of their life and the way the comedian grew up. And My Life in 3 Songs will be exclusively on Spotify because Spotify has the... What, Evan?
Spotify has...
the music licensing.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
So therefore, it's on Spotify. But My Life in 3 Songs won't be on any other platform. It won't be on Apple. It won't be on Stitcher. It won't be on, all those other platforms. So I need everybody to get over there to Spotify, download your free account, and follow My Life in 3 Songs. Because as you know, when you start a new podcast, you start with how many listeners, Evan?
0. And
now I have 32 followers. So, Evan, if you follow me today, what will I have?
I'll totally be your 33rd because I think this sounds like a fantastic idea. I mean,
you know what? It is such a good idea, Evan. I have been cooking this idea in my head for 3 years, and every comic I talk to jumps at the opportunity. I've already recorded 12 of them. Like, everybody jumps at it because everybody... Like, can you think of any songs from your life? Like, one might be from Austin. One could be from New York. You know, you don't know.
Well, absolutely. I mean, okay, so I think my everyone has one song that is autobiographical. If I had a song that was autobiographical, it would be I'm Old-Fashioned by Johnny Mercer and Jerome Kern. Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Another song that's important to me was A Nightingale Sang in Berkeley Square. Because when I moved to London for my studies, for my junior year of college, the first site that I had to visit was Berkeley Square because of that song. Wow. So, yes, I think we all have songs that are important and valuable to us. So, I'll be listening.
It's so true, Evan. Like Wayne Fetterman, famous comedian Wayne Fetterman, one of his songs is I Sing the Body Electric from Fame. I mean, it's so interesting. People, they have these certain songs and they're just in them. And so I'm very excited. You guys can also find My Life in 3 Songs on Instagram and Twitter at My Life in 3 Songs. And again, starting September 1st. So I'm very excited. All right, you guys, he's here right now. You hear him talking, Evan C. Stern. Well, I say Evan C. Stern because that's your Twitter handle.
It is.
Evan C. Stern, because you couldn't get Evan Stern, right?
Right, yeah. So my middle name is Charles, so Evan C. Stern, that's right.
It. Well, that makes sense. That's easy. And like you said, you are a writer and an actor and the creator and host of Vanishing Podcasts. Again,
Vanishing Postcards.
Podcast, Jesus.
It's all right. I still love hilarious. You. It's all good.
Vanishing Postcards. Isn't that funny? I see podcasts. Vanishing Postcards. It's such a clever idea. It's a whole new, very interesting podcast that honestly, I've never heard anything like this. And I think that's why it's getting such great accolades, because here you've taken a podcast and made it completely new. And that's what I'm doing with My Life in 3 Songs. I mean, it's a completely new idea. So I'm impressed. And you are from Austin, Texas, but you live in New York now. And you can find more about Evan and his podcast, Vanishing Postcards, at vanishingpostcards.com, correct?
That's right. Or wherever you get your podcasts.
Wherever you get your podcasts. And then where are you on Insta?
So you can find Vanishing Postcards on Instagram. It's vanishing_postcards on ye old Insta.
Perfect. All right, you guys, I'm really looking forward to this story. Wherever you are, put your hands together for the very talented Evan Stern. Yay.
Hey, I was going to tell you a story today about my uncle, and where do I begin, talking about my uncle? And I guess I'll begin by saying that it was a happy day in our household when the state of Texas won a class action lawsuit against the tobacco lobby because it meant that Marlboro would no longer be allowed to place redeemable miles on the sides of their packs. Now, I'm sure there were only a few smokers out there who were crazy enough to stockpile their points, but my Uncle John had to have been above and beyond the looniest of them all. I mean, half of his wardrobe was purchased with cigarettes, and over the course of countless birthdays, Christmases, I'd receive an inflatable raft, tent, pocket knife, all emblazoned with the familiar Marlboro logo. And he got so obsessed with collecting these Marlboro miles that he would get up at 4 a.m. on Sundays and go down to 6th Street, which in Austin is the big nightclub district, to collect, to rummage for empty packs before the cleaners got the time to sweep the streets. And one morning, this police car pulls up next to him and says, "Hey, listen, we've been watching you for a few weeks now, and we just have to ask, what on earth are you doing?" And at this, he just gleefully points to his shorts and says, "Oh, I'm out here collecting Marlboro miles, and I'm trying to save up enough to enter a sweepstakes for a smokers-only train tour of the Southwest." And, I'm sure, seeing my uncle running around town in, his shorts and loafers and shin-high black socks, to Marlboro T-shirt, I mean, the officers really would have had a hard time believing me if I told them that he'd once been elected county commissioner. And, for that matter, I mean, it's also difficult for me to believe that he actually ran on a progressive environmental platform because, when I was growing up with him, he would drive me crazy by playing Rush Limbaugh in the car. But my grandmother lives under the delusion, though. The thing is he didn't give up grudges easily, and I'm sure he turned conservative out of a feeling of betrayal. And my grandmother actually went to the grave believing he could have one day made the first liberal governor of Texas, but that title instead went to Ann Richards, whose job he replaced as commissioner. He completely blamed her for his downfall, but the truth is that he had an enemies list that probably numbered in the thousands. And over my teenage years, I would get to know their names intimately because he recruited me as his henchman to do his dirty work for him. And, my training as a Vandal started off pretty innocently. The people across the street from him converted the home into a bed and breakfast. And I think I was about 12 at the time. He recruited me to run up to their porch and pour Cairo syrup all over the place at about, 5 a.m. on a Sunday morning.
Oh, my gosh. Wait a second.
Sure.
So, in other words, his enemies list was anything he didn't like.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
the Airbnb, or what was it? A bed
and breakfast? It was a bed and breakfast. It was before.
So it comes in, and now this pisses off your uncle. And why does this piss him off?
Well, because they started, so they started having his neighbors' legally parked cars towed. And so they were doing that. They also decided to have a sunrise Easter service, which woke everybody up. I mean, of course, he was already up, but, that gave him a little grudge. More often than that, though, I found that his enemies were usually lawyers, reporters, activists from his old political days, more than anything else.
So he hands you a bottle of that light Caro syrup. Is that what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
You get at the store. Okay, and then you take it over there. How old are you?
I was 12 at that time. But usually,
Unbelievable.
But Caro syrup was rare because usually it was just eggs. Usually we would toss eggs. And the biggest, I guess if you want to call it prank job, whatever you want, was when we decided to do a favor for our friend Marge. And, Marge was an old friend of his. She was this incredibly elegant woman, grew up in Virginia, spent formative years in Bethesda, really came from that kind of East Coast blue blood stock. And she'd moved to Austin in the early 60s. Now that Austin is like popular and hip, it's really fashionable to hate on Austin. Well, she was well ahead of the curve because, man, May through September, it was hot. I mean, I remember once she was fanning herself and she just said, this was one of the last places settled on Earth. And the way people go on and on about this city, you'd think it was some kind of Rome, but it's really a Class B city, and damn it, it's hotter than a hinge in hell. And the person that she squarely blamed for her westward migration was her ex-husband, Tom. She called him the son of a bitch that got me stuck in this hellhole to begin with. And so she knew that we'd been up to no good. And, I don't remember if it was her idea, if it was my uncle's idea, but somehow we take it upon ourselves. We're going to do a favor for Marge, and we're going to go after Tom. And so one weekend, when my parents were out of town, this was back in the 90s. This is before GPS, any of that good stuff. So we pull out the phone book, we look up his address, we get an old map of the city, we drive to his residence, and we're casing the place. And my uncle said, this is the daytime, and my uncle says, what, we just want to make certain this is the right guy. Evan, why don't you go up to the front porch and, knock on the door, ask him if he's seen a white kitten. So, okay, so I, at this, but by now I'm like 15, 16. I go up to the front porch, knock on the door. He opens, I'm like, have you seen a white kitten? No. I come back. I'm like, okay, so he was tall, graying hair, glasses, Marge. Yep, that's Tom. So that night, my uncle and Marge come by to our house. They bring over 2 chickens. One we're going to roast up for dinner. The other my uncle takes in a pot, boils it to the point where it's really messy. He throws in like some expired Miracle Whip. It builds like a witch's cauldron around this damn thing. So then, so we eat our dinner, everything, chicken's ready, puts the chicken in a plastic bag, gives me some yellow dish gloves, and, jump in the car. Marge is the getaway driver. We drive up to the house again. So my uncle hands me I'm holding the chicken. He's like, Evan, I want you to go up to that front porch. I want you to slam this chicken on the porch, and I want it to go everywhere. So I grab that chicken. I run up to the front porch. I slam it down. It goes everywhere. I run back, and my uncle starts hurling eggs at the porch. Marge has hooked a Yui. We jump in the car. We speed off. And then from there, we drive to this is probably like about, midnight, something like that. We drive to a payphone. And I call this guy's number on the payphone. He wake him up. He answers the phone. And I just go, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Check the front porch. I think it might have been the chicken. And then the killer. The next morning, after he's woken up to discover this disaster on his front porch, my uncle has me call him again at about 11 a.m. And I go, oh, and by the way, asshole, there was no white kitten.
Oh, my God. This is insane. Did you tell your mom?
I did years later. And so what I told her, what happened is I actually, in college, I took like this course in creative writing. And so I actually wrote some of it down as a little bit of an essay. And for whatever reason, I decided, you know what, I'll share this with Mom. And they absolutely loved it. And what was really kind of wonderful is, a few months later, he died. And I couldn't make it to the funeral. But in my absence, when they had like the wake at the house and people gathered, they decided it was okay to read that story because it kind of captured him and all of his craziness. And so yes, I did share it with my parents, and I'm pretty glad I did.
Well, what happened to that guy, Tom? I mean, was there any recourse?
Oh, no, I have no recourse. And I feel pretty safe sharing this story now because the statute of limitations has certainly passed at this point. And
Tom wouldn't know what a podcast was anyway.
Oh, no, I don't know if he's still in the land of the living. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? But this is all like, were you as a teenager, like my kid's 15, she knows right from wrong. They know right from wrong. So what were you were just thinking like, well, he says it's okay, so I'm going to do it? Well,
I mean, I was a totally good kid. I absolutely knew right from wrong. I knew it was terrible. But, when someone gives you permission, when an adult is giving you permission to misbehave, I mean, man, you're going to take it.
Yeah, I guess. I was thinking at the wake you all threw eggs at the casket or something. That would have been somewhat apropos.
Yeah, could be.
What was this uncle's name again?
John.
And John was never married, was he?
He was. He was. By the time I knew him, he was divorced.
Did he have children?
He has a daughter, yes. She's still with us. She's out in Portland, Oregon. Hi,
okay.
Katie.
Does she know this story? Because
yes,
get a kick out of this.
She knows this story very well.
Yeah, she'd get a kick out of this. I wonder if he ever had her doing, pranks and stuff.
That's a good, I should ask her about that. It wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, what, does he just get the kids to do all the dirty work? And a list of enemies. That's hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My brother-in-law used to collect those Marlboro points. And I remember he was so proud that he got a Swiss Army watch with Marlboro points. And I spent $125 on a Swiss Army watch. And he would say, but mine is free. And I'm like, yeah, and you can watch your life tick down, too. You keep smoking that shit,
Yeah, well, he once even saved enough to get a pool table.
No, I remember it very well, Marlboro points. Yeah, it wasn't just smoking stuff, of course. Like you said, it was clothes, pool table, swimming pool, weight set, bicycles. I mean, there were some major stuff. It was almost like if you had a frequent flyer miles and you wanted to spend them on, you don't have to just spend them on flights. You can spend them on anything.
Yeah. It's amazing what he furnished his home with.
Yeah. Evan, great story. Like the quarreling amongst neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
It seems so like antiquated. Like it's so like, I don't know, like when I was a kid, Halloween, playing tricks, stuff like that.
Well, I remember one of our favorite shows on BBC America years ago was a show called Neighbors at War. And we were desperate to see if we can find copies of that show somewhere because it was hysterical. It really was.
Well, Ozzy Osbourne was like that. Remember when Ozzy Osbourne, they had that live show at his house? It was a reality show out of Ozzy Osbourne's home in Beverly Hills. And and his wife, Sharon Osbourne, like threw a chicken over the fence or something. Just the craziest shit, man. That's so funny. And you never even questioned. You're like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. Give me the chicken.
Oh, well, but see, that's all but you get the adrenaline going. It's specifically because it's bad that it's fun and you want to do it,
Absolutely, yeah. I know in high school, we used to skip school, fill up water balloons and put them in a laundry basket and then drive through the park and throw water balloons just at random people. That's nice.
Yeah, very nice, yes. I never did. I don't know that I ever did that, but no.
Well, listen, touche. You've done plenty. I'm kidding. Hey, listen, so season 2 of Vanishing Postcards is out, and do you see a season 3 ahead?
Well, I'm really excited to announce I've been approached by the Southern Foodways Alliance to produce a mini-series for them. So we're in talks right now to do something of a co-production that will be entirely food-centric. And I've already been reaching out to a number of contacts for that, and hope to start work on that imminently.
Okay, so this is all very exciting, Evan, because this is the way we want podcasters to grow. We want you to podcast, then we want to get recognition, then we want somebody to say, hey, co-produce this with me, and they give you a bucket of money. That's the plan.
Yeah. Yes, it's all what we're working on right now.
Wow.
That's all the name of the game. It's been an incredible leap of faith. I can't tell you how much self-doubt I have had along this journey, how much questioning, pounds have been gained, gray hair has sprouted. But it's to get recognition like this, to see it grow, to hear the responses that I get from people. It's incredibly validating. And there are some things in life that, feel in alignment. This is one of those things. And
I'm so happy
and I
for
don't know.
you.
And I have to say too, it's like if in a lot of crazy ways, it is the product of the pandemic. I mean, I found myself in Texas for over a year, which is something I had never planned on. And it's like having that time kind of conspired me to reset and do all of this. And it's been an incredible journey. And I look forward to seeing what comes next. I really do.
I am so happy for you, really. This is exactly the way it should go. And you're a good person. And I love seeing good people succeed.
Well, so are you.
Oh, you're so sweet. Well, but I also know the feeling of when it's right. Like my new show, My Life in 3 Songs, I might never make money from that, but there is something that is so aligned for me that makes that show fucking perfect that I don't even care if it doesn't make money. I just have to do that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
So
this has been a love project. Absolutely.
Yes. And a lot of times podcasting is, but I think that makes it beautiful that individuals can take it into our own hands to create what we want. I mean, it's refreshing and it's freaking beautiful. It's the future.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
We all have a voice. Well, I'm saying we all have a voice. Because you look at the movies and stuff, there's only 20 actors. You know that. They just keep using the same actors in different roles. Nobody gets a chance. But in podcasting, everybody gets a chance. So that's the beautiful thing about the medium.
It is. It's very democratizing. But the entry to starting a podcast is the same entry level as starting a novel.
Yes.
Anyone can do it, but you got to be good. You got to be good. You got to have something to say, and that's my one little caveat about all of that. Right.
I understand. I totally understand. I teach podcasting, and I always tell them, as long as you know why you're doing it, you're going to be fine. But if all of a sudden you start saying things like, "So we're just going to talk and hang out and we'll just see what happens," I go, no. You really do need a plan.
Absolutely.
All right, you guys, we're going to wrap it up. I want to remind you that you can find Evan over there on Twitter at Evan C. Stern, and also find him on Instagram at Vanishing Postcards and also at vanishingpostcards.com. Make sure you listen to Vanishing Postcards wherever you listen to podcasts. And, of course, follow Storyworthy and My Life in 3 Songs wherever you follow stuff as well. Boy, how was that for a pitch?
I'm sold.
Hey, listen, one more time on behalf of the very talented Evan Stern, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Christine. It's an honor.
My name is Christine Blackburn, saying, make it a story-worthy week.
Thanks for joining us on the Storyworthy Podcast. We'll be back next week with all new stories. Subscribe to Storyworthy on iTunes and visit the Storyworthy website at storyworthypodcast.com.